Hi, I'm Mike Ring with the Ringbrothers. I'm part owner with my other brother, Jim. We're here at Quail. First time for us. What an event. Super excited to be here. Come all the way from Wisconsin to debut our 1971 Aston Martin DBS. So it's pretty much a scratch-built car. You can see to the side here that we actually took a wrecked one and made a bar out of it. So we really wanted to show people what we started with to build this car. It's completely reimagined, but using the silhouette of the 71, but they really were in our kind of slab-sided, kind of narrow. So we really wanted to add some hips and stuff to them. So we put 10 inches into the rear and 8 inches into the front. So it's super wide. The car's 82 inches wide in the back and 78 in the front, so it's super wide.
I'm Gary Regal. I'm here in the Ringbrothers booth at the Quail, and I'm standing next to a 71 Aston Martin DBS V8. I'm fortunate enough to be the designer of this vehicle, and it was really a dream project for me, so allow me to kind of walk through some of the details of this car. We started by scanning an original Aston DBS, which you can see in the background. That's our martini bar for the event. We did a 3D scan of that car, brought it into CAD, and started really walking the line of what to modify, what to keep. And we really wanted to pay homage to the original Aston shape. This is an iconic vehicle, the first V8 of the Astons. So we knew we had to tread lightly and be very careful about what we did. At the same time, we wanted to create a pretty radical machine. So the center line of the car is unchanged. The silhouette of the original Aston is iconic, but what we did do is introduce a lot of drama by widening the rear track. The rear quarter panels are 5 inches wider per side. The rear of the car is 82 inches. The front fenders are 4 inches wider per side. In addition to that, to change the profile a little bit, we pushed the front wheel center forward 3 inches and enlarged the wheel wells to fit the large diameter wheels. They're 19s in the front, 20s in the rear. The wheel design is really taken from the original Aston wheel, which you can see in the background. There's a really cool little brake duct detail on those wheels. So that's something we wanted to incorporate into the new design. So that's what you see here. The rest of the spokes we opened up a little bit to make it more visually light and to show those Brembo brakes. Our wheel partner's HRE, and they were great to work with. This is a one-off set of wheels, and I think they're pretty stunning and unique to this machine. The other thing, probably my favorite part about the car, is the engine bay. As you can see, it has a clamshell, reverse-hinged hood, and inside the bay, you'll see some carbon fiber bracing flanking that 5-liter Ford Coyote motor built by Wagner Motorsports, featuring a hair-up supercharger. Every air outlet and inlet on this car is functional. I'm a big fan of function in design. So these fender air outlets vent high pressure from the wheelhouse. It gives you more downforce in the front. On top of the hood, there's hot air outlets for the engine bay. And then of course, the prominent Aston Martin hood scoop, which feeds directly into the air intake for the supercharger. In the interior, we were really kind of walking a balance between vintage and modern. You know, we didn't want this to look like a new concept car. That's why the exterior features chrome detailing, chrome bumpers, and you can really see it on the interior. Every panel is carbon fiber, which is obviously a new technology, but we have enough chrome bright work and that gorgeous leather to kind of give it a little bit more of a traditional vibe. The shape of the interior is inspired directly by the 71 DBS, but we were able to move the seats rearward 5 inches, which gave us the opportunity for a much deeper instrument panel and a lot more 3D, a lot more drama in the interior as well. All of the hard parts are 3D printed stainless, and you'll notice on the gear shift knob, it's actually hollow, it's see-through, which the only way you could produce a part like that is with a 3D printed technology.
The car is completely carbon fiber, the outer body. Machined all the bumpers, all the carbon. He's going to be popping the hood so we can see that, but it's clamshell hood, using Aston Martin hinges, and so you can see everything is built, all the carbon, the wheel tubs, inner and up, outer. All the glass had to be made. It's the same profile, it's just you can't cut glass without it cracking. Trust me, we've tried, it doesn't work. You know, same silhouette, but a one-piece glass, got rid of the vent windows, made it cleaner. Mirrors that, from the back, they're the same shape as the original DBS, just extended out, and Gentex company made them for us. Trim, all the trim we machined out of stainless, all the carbon rockers. If you notice, all the weave on the car is pointed, goes facing the front of the car, and that is in the interior too. All the carbon weave, it goes forward. Except for the back here, the weave changes and goes the other direction right on this line because the spoiler's floating. It's got a floating spoiler. Exhaust tips were machined out of stainless. Made a fake plate, Road America, because we are from Wisconsin. Shaken, not stirred. Got to keep the Bond theme going.
The inner and outer door panel is carbon fiber. The door jamb is carbon fiber. The only steel on this car is the chassis, a little bit of the firewall, and there's an integrated roll cage running through the interior that's covered by the pillar trim and upholstery. So the only original 71 Aston parts are the power window switches and the VIN tag. It wasn't always the plan, but like so many of these projects, this snowballed and kind of took on a life of its own as we went. We were planning on using a lot more of the internal structure of the car, but when they took the skins off, there was virtually nothing left. And what was left was going to need to be modified anyway. So we just started from scratch and built a new structure. This is a one-off commission by a customer. The tooling that was used for all the carbon parts was a soft tooling. It's more of a temporary tool or a limited production tool. So it's really there. We could get one more set of parts. I believe they will try to build one more car. There's a plan for that, but that's it. Yeah, Ringbrothers specializes in American muscle, high-end modified American muscle cars. And I do design work for them, and we both kind of felt at this point we've done enough Camaros and Mustangs, and it was time for something new. So this customer, Eric Johnson, was wonderful to work with, and he was totally open to doing any type of vehicle. So Mike and Jim suggested a European car. Eric went home and Google searched European muscle car. 71 Aston Martin was the first hit on Google, so we went for it.
Again, Gentex helped us with the taillights on the car. We put 2 fillers in the car because the original cars had the 2 fillers. Believe it or not, the glass is the same glass except the big notch. And then the roof obviously is carved out for that. These are functional scoops for the brakes. At modern DBS handles. The wheels, we actually, if you look at the original car sometime, thought this was really cool. Hadn't really seen that on many wheels, but the original car had it. We kind of wanted to keep with that theme, but open the wheel up because when it was more solid like the originals, it got real heavy. The car got real heavy.
You know, when you look around this show at a lot of exotic cars, things that are in a similar price range, those are, even if they're limited production, it's possible for someone else to buy the same car or a very similar car, and you may park next to yourself at a show. With a car like this, it's bespoke to the owner's taste. The owner is involved in the design process. He is the only person that will ever have a car like this. So if we do a second one, it's going to have different details, and no one will ever mistake it for this car. So I think that's, for this type of customer that's looking for a vehicle like this, I think there's a lot of value in one of one. Truly one of one shape, one of one details, and not just a one-off paint color or upholstery. This was a blast to work on. It became a research project for myself personally because I wasn't familiar with these cars, which made it really refreshing. The last high-profile vehicle that we did before this was a 1948 Chevy pickup truck mixed with a Formula One car. So completely different type of vehicle, and we're really up for anything.
Going on the inside, all the metal parts that you touch are 3D metal printed. The sill plates, we combined the American flag and British flag. Machined the steering wheel is somewhat the same style of the original. Gentex built these visors. They're the first to be in a car that they produced. They're self-dimming, or you can let them automatically dim. So if you go get really bright sun, they automatically dim like in an aircraft. It's got LEDs in the headliner. It's got a supercharged Coyote that look very similar to the 5.3 or 5.4 that were in these cars. Double overhead cam with a hair-up supercharger. Had to remake the whole supercharger because we needed the airbox to seal on our hood scoop that we designed. So we basically said, here's where we need that supercharger inlet to be. So they made the new supercharger for us so that we could get it in a position where we needed the intake. You can see how the wheel tubs, the inner, the upper, they seal with the seal.
There's a lot of layers and depth to the design of this vehicle. One of the more interesting aspects that we're getting a lot of questions about is the dual fuel filler. There's one fuel tank, but two fillers. And that was a little quirk taken directly from the original 71 DBS. There was two fuel doors on either side of the deck lid. As well, a lot of people don't notice that there's an aero pass-through here. So that was done in reminiscent of the more late model DB9, I believe. Every detail on this car has a story, and it's either tying to the original vehicle or Aston DNA somewhere along the line, whether it's more traditional or modern vehicle.
The actual owner was really cool. He goes, what do you want to build? And we said, a European muscle car. So he Googled like European muscle car and a DBS showed up. So he bought one and then we built this. The silhouette that we kept, but not much of the existing car because we were planned on using more, but it just wasn't working out. So we actually built a full cage, CNC cage to build off of that, off the chassis to bond it onto these.
The exhaust tips are machined stainless and they have a carbon fiber outer housing. So it's the construction is almost like a motorcycle silencer. Diffuser, carbon diffuser rolls underneath the car and kind of houses these tips. It has heat shielding inside. The tail lamps, it's hard to see. The LED tail lamps. Our partners at Gentex built these tail lamps, and they're super bright, even though they're thin. The carbon weave, anywhere carbon fiber crosses the center line of the car, the weave has a V pattern to it. So there's a center line delineated throughout the car, even in the interior. When it gets to the rear tail panel, that V switches directions and points down and runs down and around the bottom of the diffuser. That is a backup camera, and it's piped to a rear view mirror built by our partners at Gentex. So the mirror functions as a camera. There's also the side view mirrors built by Gentex that feature a small illuminated Ringbrothers logo. And maybe the coolest Gentex part are the visors on the interior. The visors are photochromic glass. Much like glasses, when sun hits it, they darken. So you can either control that manually or allow it to be automatic when the light hits it. So this is the first vehicle to feature that technology.
We became Ringbrothers about 20 years ago. We've been together. We were in business for 10, 11 years before that. But we've been into cars our whole life. But really didn't start out to build cars, just collision and building hot rods. And we used to do restorations, and we got kind of tired of people saying, well, that's not the right this or that's not the right. So we just said, let's just do what we want to do. And if people like it, great. If not. So now we become where we only do commission builds. So we typically don't build any car more than once. So it's just kind of boutique-y in that way, and it's fun. It's just a little more expensive than a production car.
So on the original vehicle, this was a quarter window. We deleted that and introduced a duct. There's a 3D printed duct work that goes down to the rear brakes. It cools the brake caliper for the rear. Once again, every vent is functional, air and litter outlet. And there's some James Bond details, little Easter eggs kind of in this vehicle. The e-brake handle was designed to look like the barrel on a pistol, or reminiscent of it anyway. You'll see an Aston Martin badge on the valve covers, as well as the handle of the dipstick is a special little Easter egg.
We'll do anything. We actually would prefer to do something that's not American. We've done a lot of different American cars and we love them, but they're getting harder to do because we've done so many, meaning not many, but maybe 50 total. But we always want a different challenge. We always like looking at something that's new that we haven't seen, so we can put our take on whatever that car may be, if the client's willing.
So the front of the vehicle features HID headlamps. We kept that prominent chrome bumper befitting of a vintage vehicle. I think cars like this need a certain amount of chrome. Carried the fin details from elsewhere on the car into the grille. These grille bars are made up of 3 carbon fiber parts that were bonded together. The Aston badge is a little bit unique. It's hollow, almost like the wings on a dragonfly. So you can see through the wings and notice the paint color coming through. The hood scoop is classic vintage Aston Martin. There was a prominent hood scoop on the DBS V8, and we knew right off that was something that we had to carry through on this vehicle.
Typically our builds take about 2 years. This was about 3. You want the challenge, and it's what keeps you young.
The lower chin spoiler features 2 air inlets on either side, which is reminiscent of the original 71 DBS had 2 small slots. So it was not as much of a chin spoiler, but there was a couple slot air intakes on there. So if you're interested in having Ringbrothers build your dream, contact them. If you're interested in having me work on the design, I'm happy to do it. We've got a lot of things in our mind, and we'd be happy to build your dreams. Thanks for taking a look.
You know, a question we get all the time is, why an Aston Martin? You know, why this car? Eric came to us, local customer, and wanted to build a car, and he actually asked us what we want to build, and we just told him we'd like to look at building like a European muscle car. He went online and kind of Googled that, come back with this 71 Aston Martin DBS. Literally, in a couple days later, he owned the car and it was here. So it went pretty fast, but it's a pretty exciting project for us. We've never really went down this road before, so it should be exciting. Some of the things on this car, we're really trying hard to make it look a little more on the OE side than the hot rod side. You know, when this is done, the hood will be open and you'll see a lot of stuff like an OEM radiator, which is like a typical plastic radiator that you'd see in an OEM car. A lot of the reservoirs are OEM. We're trying very hard to use a lot of tested and true products on this car, more like the OEs than the hot rod side. You know, for instance, the brakes, they're all the big Brembos. We actually machine the uprights to fit the Corvette style brake on it. They're running a Porsche pin drive, which means obviously there's no lug nuts. It's a center nut that actually holds the wheel on, just like Porsche does. You know, obviously the electric cooling fans are all controlled by the computer. A lot of really fun things on this car that it's hard to see unless we explain it to you. The wiring layout, the computer layout, it's all been done ahead of time, so we actually know where all of that stuff's going. The motor in this car is actually a Coyote, supercharged Coyote, running a Harrop supercharger on it. We kind of chose that because obviously Aston Martin and Ford had some time together, and we just thought it was appropriate to use that particular motor. We're trying to get, you know, obviously we wanted big horsepower. 1,000 is not out of the question with it, but for a drivability car, and it's probably as light as this car is going to be, it's going to be back down to around 730-ish, 700. Things should run pretty good. You know, the reason we actually chose the Coyote for this car, obviously we know that motor very well. We've used it a lot of different applications. Ford actually owned Aston Martin in the 80s and 90s. So we thought it was appropriate to use that motor only because we understand that motor so well, and we didn't understand, obviously, the Aston Martin stuff. I just think for this particular car, the horsepower we're trying to get out of it, it's a good fit, and we're not putting a Chevy in it. You know, the Coyote is very similar to the 5.2. Actually, we could probably dress it up with valve covers and other things, which we probably will anyway, and I don't think anybody'd even know it's a Coyote at the end of the day.
So here we are in April. We've got a few months and this car has got to be done in August. And it looks like we have a long way to go, but honestly, we've come a long way. The engineering and the design we're pretty well through it, except for interior. But like all these panels, we started out by scanning the original car, the 71 DBS, and like we said earlier, we wanted to widen this thing significant, put some hips into it, change wheelbases, but still retain the 71 Aston Martin feel. So like the profile of the windshield, the back glass, all that's the same. You know, it's really based off a lot of the vents, you know, it's really based off the original car. There's a lot of what we used. But in that, instead of making as much out of steel, we did a lot out of carbon, much more than we have before, like inner wheel tubs you'll see, closeout panels, doors, you know, not only the outer door, but actually the inner frame and the jamb is all done in carbon too, which is more work than we originally had done. So the car is really exciting for us. It really pushed all of us to look at it a different way. You have to be more patient building a car this way because you're always waiting on somebody besides yourself. But I'm really excited about the process from, you know, the scanning to milling parts or, you know, milling plugs to making the part, then finding a way to figure out how to hold it. You know, we had a cage that was totally CNC'd a 1/4 inch away from our panels so that we could build off of that to hold the structure for the carbon. So it's a big process, but it was super fun, exciting. It's scary in times because you're trying to build something without all the parts, and you hope what you did early on everything's going to mate up to that, meaning it better be square all the way through. So the first panels better be right because it will affect the last one. So, you know, a lot of people think, oh, you cheated, you did it in carbon. Well, you know, it's really not. What we're doing is making something that's exactly the same as the other side, which would be very, very difficult to do in steel to be perfect as far as side to side because you can just mirror the part. But, you know, carbon's like, think of a potato chip. You know, you have this one A side. Well, you have to put a B side to it, whether that's in steel or another piece of carbon, but then you also have to mount it to something. And you have to build everything, just like a regular, you know, aluminum car, steel car. You have to build everything. And what we've done here is filled in all the blanks, building to the potato chip. And it's challenging. I don't think it's cheating. I think it's the future, but it's exciting and we're learning every day. And I guess that's what keeps us young around here is having all the young guys push us to do something that's more techie than we were familiar with. So it's been really fun. Being an Aston Martin and have done as much work as we have to this thing, we really, really want to stay true to the era, the 70s. Besides the carbon accents that it has, you know, the interior, we want to feel like it's, you know, reminiscent of the 70s, not a modern Aston Martin, more of a feel of an older one, because at the end of the day, this car is going to feel older. It's not going to have ABS brakes. It's going to have big power. It's going to drive really well, but it's not a new supercar. It's still going to have the feel of the exciting feel, the rumble, the sound of a muscle car. And there's going to be even though there's a lot of technology in the car, we still want to retain the feel of the 70s feel. although it will have a little of the James Bond feel with the cameras, you know, that Gentex has done for us, forward-looking cameras to the side mirrors and a very high-tech mirroring and visor system in here that Gentex has done. But it's still, we want it to not just jump out at you like, oh, that's modern stuff. We want you to find it, kind of like all our cars, a little Easter egg hunt on what's modern and what just looks old that is modern.
You know, there's a lot left to be done on this car. Obviously, in the time frame we have, we've got to send the engine back to Wagner to have it re-dynoed with the new Harrop supercharger on it. All the air cleaner system has to be obviously aligned and figured out. The transaxle, the bottom of the car, everything's in it for the final time. The bottom of the car and firewall and everything is painted. Obviously, there's a hint of what color the car will be if you pay attention. As for the carbon, there's a lot of, well, let's call it James Bond to do on that stuff yet. There's a lot of bonding to put together. We're excited to have it for Monterey and have you guys let us know what you think. You know, building a car of this caliber takes a lot of effort and a lot of people. Here at Ringbrothers, we've got a great team. There's a lot of people involved in this. Pretty much everybody in the shop has a big part of this vehicle. I'd like to have, like Ryan, show you around a little bit of all of the fab work that has taken place on this car. I think since he was a big part of that, he'd be a good guy to show you a lot of the stuff that was done.
I'm Ryan from Ringbrothers. We are here with this Aston Martin DBS project that we've been working on. Going to go over a couple of fab items on this car since we've got it broke down. We've got the clamshell off right now. You can see the radiator core support assembly. That's modular. So this will come out as one modular unit and give us full access to the engine, the front drive unit, and anything that we need to service. It works out really good to be able to have all this stuff self-contained, be able to pull it out, set it on the bench, and then get access to the things we need to work on these vehicles. Moving to the back, you can see we've got these big kick-out toe boxes on the firewall. That's something a little bit different. On most cars, you'll see a relatively flat firewall. With this one, we moved that engine back 5 3/4 inches to get more room for the driver's compartment. And as it relates to the chassis, we wanted to move that whole section back so you're sitting really like in the guts of the car. And with that, of course, that pushed our cowl back and our firewall as it relates to the engine. So our toe boxes actually come out past the engine. When you see the engine sitting in here, it'll be tucked back in this little pocket nice, so you're in the car. You really get a feel that you are integral part of this vehicle, and I think it's gonna be a really fun driving experience because of that. We've got a late model Ford Mustang booster and pedal assembly over there on the driver's side. That's all been incorporated in and sunk into those toe boxes. Moving to the back, you can see our Ringbrother hinges that we modified to work with this door setup. We've got all late model components on the inside of the door, so the regulators, the latch, the lock, all the mechanisms are all OE. They're all from a late model vehicle, and the external door handle, which you can't see right now on this side, but on the other side it's in, that's from a late model Aston Martin. It's the same handle on those new Astons, and we thought that was a really cool tie-in with this vehicle. Towards the back, you can see that we've got the suspension together, the torque tube is in, the transaxle's in, the really cool racing green, that Aston Martin bright green that we've got on the transaxle and those springs. You know, that's something we wanted to carry through these big Brembo brakes, but the fabrication that you see underneath that's now all painted and pretty, that's all in bare steel. The belly pans, the trunk floor setup, the removable modular battery tray that's there under the trunk floor, gas tank, all of that stuff is all fabricated, all been in place now and painted out. And, you know, it's really starting to blend well with what we've got going on with the rest of the car. It's while we do that welding and grinding and polishing, just to lock in that shape that we have, because the tolerances to the car are very tight. We'll have less than 1/8 of an inch gap all the way around these bumpers. And that's the kind of precision that we can get when we CNC machine and design these components along with the carbon fiber quarter panels and front assembly. That's how we can get those really tight tolerances, and we're really excited about that. You'll see on this piece, there's those 2 square cutouts there. That's actually the bottom side of the rear bumper. That will be the license plate illumination. And then also what you can't see in here from this angle are the pockets on how this mounts. Looking at the back side of these bumpers, you can see that we've machined in these 3 pockets here. That will be our mounting surface on the vehicle. So we've got a modular assembly that will then connect the vehicle to this and allows a pass through to the carbon fiber with a grommet, so everything's nice and sealed. And again, we get that really tight tolerance all the way around, and really looking forward to getting the front end all together on this car so we can see this front bumper set up on there. The rear bumper we had on, it looks really cool. Really excited to get the front and rear paired up and see it all together. So moving forward with this build, we're real excited that as of right now, firewall back, we've got our fabrication pretty well laid out. There's going to be a few things to tidy up, but we've pretty much got the fabrication done. Our complete focus now is firewall forward. We've got that clamshell in. We're going to have some lower components. There's inner structure that'll be built here because that clamshell is going to tilt forward, and our latches will be about here on either side. So we're going to have inner structure there and tie that into the inside of the vehicle, so when you pull that hood release, both sides open up. Our hinge structure, that'll all be mounted off of the frame rail here, and they'll come up, and those hinges are going to sit about like that. So there's a lot of structure that's going to get built there. Same with the front bumper. These provisions here are where we're going to mount that bumper to those modular units there. And then we'll have other inner structure that supports the spoiler and the front air dam and all those things, the headlight and the grille. Blockout panels on the top that'll close out the radiator core support. Intake, we've got a really cool carbon fiber intake. That's going to be mated up to that clamshell when it opens and closes. That's going to draw air right through the middle of the hood. So we'll have a structure that actually holds that to the engine. So there's a lot of cool visual fabrication that's going to be done under the hood moving forward. One of the other things we're going to address here very soon is the glass in this vehicle. Windshield, that's been taken care of. We've got that here in-house. Side glass, the rear glass, we're going to have very shortly. Now, saying it like that sounds like a pretty easy thing. We've got some glass, we're going to put it in. It did not always go that way. So we've learned a lot, and we had some trials and tribulations as it relates to that glass. Starting off with the fact that when we realized that we're going to need custom glass for this design, some of the quotes we got were in the $90,000 range. And we decided that we needed to make some adjustments there and see what else we could do. Now, most of the glass, the front and the rear, is modeled after the original Aston Martin glass, but it's downsized a little bit. So what we learned in talking to some very skilled, experienced glass people is that in cutting glass with this much curve, laminated glass, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. And we found out just about all of those things that can go wrong for ourselves. We broke a number of pieces of glass getting this set up, but we were able to water jet the front windshield, and we've got that all set and good. The side glass and the rear we had to have made from scratch from molds. And the reason for that, specifically in the rear, there's a notch that comes down from the top, and it's arched both ways. Well, if you start with a rounded curved piece of glass and you try to take out that notch after it's been laminated, so much stress is removed and relieved in that cutting process that the glass can't retain its shape. So that was something we learned, and that's part of the process with these builds, right? Is constantly improving the product and taking what we've learned and using that to come up with the next thing. And that next thing was to take that piece of glass, take that CAD, send it to somebody that was going to physically make the new piece of glass for us. So that's what we've got going on. This skin is not placed on the door right now permanently. It can be removed. That's just clamped on in place. And the reason that we're doing that, we're going to hold off until we physically have the glass in-house, because any adjustments that we might need to make to the window track, to the regulators, to the up stops and down stops, much easier with the skin off of the door. If the glass is in and we no longer have access to that, it's very difficult to get to the backside. So having the benefit of being able to pull this off and work on it from this side is going to be really beneficial to getting this glass to go up and down in the best, most efficient way it possibly can. So some more things we had to fabricate here in the back. We've never built an Aston Martin before, so the deck lid position as it relates to the car is all entirely new, nothing that we've engineered. So we actually fabricated the trunk hinges for this vehicle, and this is what we've got. They're painted out. They work fabulously. They use the gas struts that we use on our other hinges, but that was another challenge, right? All the angles are new and different to things that we typically deal with. So from a fabrication standpoint, those are the things that really excite us because it's a new challenge. It's something to figure out. And when you get a piece like the deck lid opening and closing and latching flawlessly, like a brand new car, it's really a good feeling here in the fab shop. So we're excited about that. All right, so the exhaust in this vehicle, tip to tail, 3-inch stainless. We've got stainless bellows. We've got the Shelby cats up front. Those right now are getting wrapped in header shield as well as the headers. Then the exhaust all the way back, like I said, 3-inch. It's got twin X pipes and the mufflers there in the center. And this is one of the tips. So these will drop in right here and they'll come through that carbon fiber rear diffuser. Got a carbon fiber tip. These are all machined in-house. Beautiful stainless, all been welded together. Beautiful welds. And we're going to leave this one in its raw stainless form. We feel that it really gives a race-inspired look. And, it's a vehicle that's designed to be raced, designed to be driven. And we're excited to show off this exhaust. It looks really pretty under there with that belly pan and that Aston Martin Racing Green transaxle. And this is all kind of framing it. So when we get that rear section back in, these will just be poking through and give a real nice look to the back of the car.
Yeah, it's funny. Jim and I are just looking at all these, the car coming in originally and, the original scan of the car, of the 71. And first thing putting wheels in it, moving the wheelbase like we did and ride height. And then really went into the renderings of the initial renderings of the car. And it's fun how we change. Like this was one of the first ones where the grille was really tall. And we modified it to be pinched more like that, and the headlights are more hidden. It's just fun to see how far it's come, and yet really still looks like the original rendering. It's fun. It's so now we go back and go into the CAD alone, just to look at this. How much, trying to get the original profile and how rough it is and trying to understand and then incorporating the chassis into it and, trying to build a car in space like this is crazy. You think of all this just being a potato chip, like we said, and then trying to build to it and go over your designs, what you like, what you don't like, with the way it was going, and figuring out all the envelope of the wheels and the tires and suspension travel.
No, there's just so much that is an unknown. It's almost like putting together a puzzle and you don't have all the pieces. It's kind of a one piece at a time. I think there was a song written about that where the Johnny Cash, I think it was, one piece at a time. That's certainly this car. We still don't have all the pieces, but it's interesting how they're all coming together as we get them. So obviously we must be doing something right because we haven't really ran into a 911 at this point.
Yeah, it goes to show what, everybody does their job, right? I mean, from the Roadster shop CAD we got, from the way they built it to the CAD we had to do to have the CNC caged built. We could have built a cage, but this was CNC'd, so it was exactly, side to side. So we knew exactly where to build from and that we could trust the measurements because this whole car, you look at it and think, God, this whole thing's done in CAD from the window trim, It's just,
you think it's something as simple as the supercharger where, we're Harrop's down there building the supercharger for a car and we're up here building the air cleaner and the air intake for a car in two separate pieces, two separate places. And at the end of the day, they have to come together. So there's just so much, not only unknown, but it just goes back to all of the work in the CAD and making sure it's right the first time.
Yeah, and there's still all the unknowns. You think of like the latches and how we had to put the latch to the outside of the glass, which normally the latch is on the inside of the glass and figuring out the latching systems and figuring out the glass, and then how do we mount the glass, and then having the glass made to our specs. And we still don't have it. We should have it next week. And hopefully all our measuring worked out. But you know, all the glass was made in CAD, and just making sure it goes up and down and doesn't interfere with the regulator and the latches. And it's pretty crazy. You know, even the exhaust tips were done in CAD, and the tail lights and the badging. And you know, this has definitely pushed us further than we've ever been pushed.
Even things like the rack and pinion that were originally put in the car by the Roadster shop that, you know, you suddenly figure out when you move the motor back farther than we actually originally thought when the chassis was being built, you know, that changed the entire steering rack and the way it had to, you know, get by the alternator. And it was just, there was a lot of head scratching after that got moved back. But I think in the end, it was the right thing to do just because of the way the car will drive with the new rack in it. And we just had really good luck with that particular setup.
Well, even like you said, that the serviceability of the rear end and then the clutch, where we made it now, it's serviceable, where before we would have had to pull the motor. Now we can service it from underneath, which wouldn't have been without us doing modifications. But yeah, it's just so much, you know, the wheel envelope, you know, it's fun to see the interference that we were going to have. And because wheel size, you know, this, we could do the wheels right away because we knew the back space and everything up front. And we knew by the tire size where we would have interference through the modeling that we've done. And that's pretty interesting, you know, that normally we are picking wheels at the end and figuring out offsets and goofing them up a little bit because you're trying to push the envelope. And now we know what the envelope is because it's all done in CAD. So it's pretty neat seeing how the inner fenders are going to fit with what we went back and scanned like the firewall after we built it so that our closeout panels will fit to what we had fabricated. Yeah, it's just crazy to look at how far it's come. Scanning Aston Martin door handles so that we could make the opening in our door shells exactly right, and the measurements on our rockers to, you know, what we would have to do to, how do you mount that stuff? You know, everything's about, yeah, you get the carbon part, but you got to figure out how to mount it. Where do you put the hard points before it gets put together? How do you mount this stuff so it looks proper?
That's the same way with all of the interior stuff, the wiring, the layout, the computer. I mean, there's so much, you know, typically you don't modify an OEM harness. There's so many wires in there, and they're always twice as long as they need to be. So you definitely have to spend the time to actually mount the computer and lay out and route the wires in a way that, you know, it's pleasing to the eye when you're done, so you don't look under the dash and think you're in a horror movie. There's just a lot that goes into it, a lot of thought, and it has to be serviced, it has to come apart, so there's a lot to it.
We pushed a lot of our friends to change what they had done and push them to do how we wanted to do it. Call us, we're not untouchable, it's just ringbrothers.com. We're in Wisconsin, but we build cars for people all over.